Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. In a few moments, I'll be giving my thoughts and feelings on episode 4 of Married at First Sight Nashville. And throughout this video, I'll be giving you all a brief episode breakdown, an overall episode rating, then I'll share my thoughts on each couple for the episode. But before I get into the review, if you're new to the channel and you want to support my platform, then feel free to hit that subscribe button. Without any further delay, let's jump right in. If you haven't seen episode 4 yet, then this is it in a nutshell. The actual runtime for episode 4 is an hour and a half long, which is a surprise considering that the usual runtime is 2 hours long. The last 30 minutes of the episode was dedicated to the after party segment, and I'm wondering if this is how the show plans to stretch the season to 23 episodes. But the first 30 minutes of the episode was essentially showing the couples going to their hotel room right after the wedding. We hear the couples talk about their expectations for the wedding night, and they wake up the next day to get to know each other more. Now, if you're wondering whether or not the couples actually consummated their marriage on the wedding night, then wonder no more, because nobody got to clap the cheeks. That is, nobody that we know of. And that's because most of the cast members only got 3 hours of sleep before having to film their morning scenes. But after the first hour and a half of the episode, the couples are then tasked with meeting each other's friends and family members for a Q&A session. After the 1 hour mark, some of the couples reconvene to talk about their experiences meeting each other's friends and family. Then they get a gift basket that tells them about their honeymoons. The honeymoon this year will be in Jamaica, and I know Mirla from the Houston season is somewhere punching the air right now. The couples minus Kirsten and Shaq head to the honeymoon, and the remainder of the episode shows the couples that made it to the honeymoon getting adjusted while in Jamaica. Now on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll rate this episode a solid 5. While I appreciated that the episode was shorter than normal, I still feel that the episode contained a lot of fluff, and more could have been shown within the episode's runtime. If you haven't seen this episode yet, then you're really not missing much in my opinion. So I'll be discussing the couples in order of appearance, which means the first couple up is Shaq and Kirsten. We first see them entering their hotel room, and I first want to say that I'm proud of Kirsten for not pulling an Alyssa and demanding that Shaq sleep in another room. That would have been a little too tacky. But Shaq and Kirsten take off their clothes, they put on something more comfortable, and brother Shaq asks Kirsten for a kiss. Unfortunately, Kirsten treats Shaq like a bill collector and avoids him. She claims that they have to get to know each other first and all that jazz, but the uncomfortable truth is that because Kirsten isn't attracted to Shaq, and because she doesn't want to come off like Alyssa did in her season of the show, Kirsten is making up excuses, and she's moving the goalpost every time the topic of kissing comes up. Being that Shaq is fairly educated, he pretty much knows what we all know, which is that Kirsten isn't feeling him like that. It would be nice for Kirsten to tell him up front what the deal is, instead of beating around the bush. Kirsten and Shaq then meet with each other's friends and family, and the biggest takeaway that I had from their scenes was that Kirsten was looking for a reason as to why their marriage shouldn't work, and Shaq's uncle gave her that reason. He tells Kirsten that Shaq has a busy schedule, to which Kirsten feels that that may be a hindrance to their marriage. Shaq in turn meets with Kirsten's people, and they pretty much grill him about his intentions and how he would respond if she were reserved after the honeymoon. And I kind of feel bad for Shaq, because all of Kirsten's friends and family know that she's not attracted to him, but they're putting the onus on him to be the best version of himself instead of telling him the truth. But further in the episode, we learn that Kirsten and Shaq will be late attending the honeymoon because Shaq has to go to Mississippi on business. This news puts Shaq further in the doghouse, and I can bet the house that he will likely not be getting any action on the honeymoon. Going into this episode, I didn't have high expectations for this couple, and I still don't. If they make it to the decision day, I'll be very surprised. Next, we have Domynique and Mack. After the wedding, we see them in the hotel room, and they seem to be getting along pretty well. They're also physically attracted to one another. Later in the episode, they meet up with each other's family, and the biggest takeaway from these scenes were that Domynique's family was very concerned with Mack because of his lack of experience dating black women. But in fairness, Domynique is mixed, and she could actually pass for Latina in my opinion. I don't get any racist vibes from Mack, but it looks like Domynique's mother is looking for perfection. Unfortunately, she didn't do her Married at First Sight homework. On the flip side, Domynique goes to meet Mack's parents, and Mack's mom was not impressed. The mother thought the process was crazy, and I wouldn't be surprised if she actually watched Married at First Sight and knew what foolishness was in store for her son and daughter-in-law. I do find it interesting that when Mack's mother asked Domynique how she would feel if Mack wanted to move back to Michigan, Domynique was at a loss for words. It seems like she's fully set in living in Tennessee unless she has the desire to move elsewhere. I think that Domynique and Mack look good on paper, but they will eventually encounter issues that they won't be willing to compromise on. Next, there's Jasmine and Airris. After the wedding, we can clearly see that there's sexual chemistry between the two of them, but Jasmine is definitely holding off on getting that good old pickle tickle from Airris until the honeymoon like she planned. I think it's worth mentioning that there were 2 times in this episode where it seemed like Airris was completely fine with having Jasmine wait on him. The first time was the morning after the wedding. Jasmine went up to get breakfast from room service while Airris laid in the bed, and typically on Married at First Sight, the men are usually the ones that go up to get breakfast after the wedding night. But on the honeymoon, Airris asked Jasmine to go get some grapes and feed him while he laid in the tub. I'm sure that some relationships can work like this, but I don't envision Jasmine continuing the role of servant Airris, especially if he doesn't prove that he's worthy of it. The only child syndrome is really starting to show. But when Airris and Jasmine meet each other's families, it was interesting to see Jasmine's family being laid back and cool with Airris, almost treating him like an extension of their own. And in my opinion, this is something that is rarely seen so early on from the bride's family on the show. But when it came to Jasmine meeting Airris' family, the Hayden cousins started grilling Jasmine like she was a suspect on First 48. There were a lot of slick comments that the cousin made to Jasmine, and I applaud Jasmine for remaining classy during their exchange, because I know quite a few women that would have checked the Hayden cousin with some very choice words. All in all, the more I see Airris, the more he reminds me of Chris from the Atlanta season of the show. He definitely doesn't have any business being on the show in my opinion. Next, there's Clint and Gina. And I gotta tell you, the more I see these two together, the more my BS meter starts ringing off the hook. Clint claims that he's physically attracted to Gina, but the records show that Gina is the opposite of what Clint is looking for in a woman. Gina, on the other hand, is simply too thrilled with the thought of being married that she overlooks one important detail, which is that she's really not physically attracted to Clint. At first, when I saw the previews for this season, and Clint was talking about Gina's physique, I thought that he may have been a little inappropriate. But after seeing Gina tell Clint to his face that she's really not attracted to his hair color, I think that Clint also speaking his mind about her looks is considered fair game, especially since they really don't know each other at this point. But the two of them meet each other's families, and the biggest takeaway that I got from their scenes is that Gina's sister claims that Gina and Clint are too much alike, which is definitely a bad thing, considering that they really don't need each other for anything, and they really don't know how to balance each other out. Gina's brother-in-law also brought up the point that Gina doesn't have a lot of free time. And this was a point that I made in my first video of the season. I simply didn't see how Gina could balance being a wife with all the other stuff that she's got going on, while allowing Clint the opportunity to lead her. This marriage was clearly over before it began, and I see these two remaining single for quite some time after the show. And lastly, there's Chris and Nicole. What I will say about this couple is that they have the most naturally flowing conversation out of the other couples, and it's pretty obvious that Nicole is falling quickly for Chris. I won't spend a lot of time on this couple because there really isn't much to talk about. Chris is a good guy for the 100th time. He has a big heart for the 100th time, and Nicole digs that about him. When they meet each other's families, I wasn't surprised that Nicole's father was ball-busting Chris over his intentions with Nicole and the show's process. That's what any loving father would do. But as of now, it looks like Chris's heart is in the right place, and I think he will do right by Nicole. But this marks the end of my review. If you have any questions or comments related to the review or the episode, feel free to leave them below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.